So, how does chronic pain work? Well, first of all, I want you to know that your pain is 100% real. There's no way of measuring pain aside from how you report your pain. And so, what you are experiencing is 100% real, no matter what somebody else tells you. You are experiencing it, it is real. And there is hope. You have the power to shift your pain. I want to say that again. You have the power to shift your pain. There is absolutely hope. So let's talk about what chronic pain is. Chronic pain is different from acute pain. So acute pain is a recent injury, something that's happened within 3 months. But after an injury should have healed within 3 to 6 months, after that, pain is chronic. And that means that it has set up shop within your brain and within your nervous system. And it's going on beyond that average healing time. And so often there's no apparent cause. It could be something like fibromyalgia or migraine. And it involves the nervous system, which includes the brain. And so, what makes chronic pain worse? Well, stress. Have you ever experienced that when you have stress, your pain levels go up? Yeah. And then you start to feel fearful and your pain level goes up. And then maybe you can't sleep. And then you start thinking negatively. Oh no, what's going to happen? Is this going to get worse? So now you're going in a negative fear feedback loop. And then maybe you're not moving your body because you don't want to move your body because what if it gets worse? And that actually makes chronic pain worse. And then maybe you're isolating because, well, I had to cancel with my friends last week. And I don't want to have to cancel again, so I just am not going to make any plans. And so then you're feeling more stressed out, you're feeling more fearful, you have a lack of sleep, you have more negative thinking, and it's like this negative feedback loop and it's making the pain worse, but you think, well, but I don't want to do these things. And it's actually reinforcing to your brain, reinforcing to your nervous system that, hey, wait, no, I I'm not safe in my body. And so I need to keep making this pain worse. Why does this happen? Pain is processed in the nervous system. So even though we experience pain in our leg or our back, those sensations travel through our nerves to the spinal cord up to the brain. And the brain decides, is this sensation that I'm experiencing safe or is it dangerous? It's like when you put your hand on a hot stove and your hand automatically pulls away because the brain says, oh, that's dangerous. Meh, 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 meh. It rings the alarm because pain is an alarm and then it pulls your hand away. But pain is more than just the sensations that we feel. Pain is actually more than that because pain shares the same neural pathways with our thoughts and our emotions. Did you ever notice if you say to someone, oh, I'm in pain, someone might actually say, wait, do you mean physical pain or you mean emotional pain? It's kind of interesting that we have the same word in English, right? So we've got these emotions that share the same neural pathways, especially emotions like fear and anxiety. It's like anxiety and pain are like peanut butter and jelly. They go together. So fear and anxiety and anger, they share the same neural pathways as pain. And so our thoughts and our emotions, they can actually amplify our sensations. So if our emotions are amped up, or our thoughts are in a dark place, it can actually amplify our pain and make it worse. In fact, those of us who tend toward chronic pain can become what is known as sensitized to pain. And that is, our brains tend to amplify pain more than other people's brains. So here's the cool thing. With time and with training, we can actually begin to retrain our brain and our nervous system to become less sensitive to pain. So if you imagine your body is like a soundboard for music, like the one in this picture. And so you can imagine traditionally we might mess with the hip or the knee or the low back or the neck or wherever you have your multiple places of pain. However, if you focus on the nervous system, it's like you're going to that master dial and you're just turning down the volume on everything. So this is possible because of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means we have the ability to change the brain. Scientists used to think that once we became adults, we didn't have the ability to change our brains. However, in more recent years, they've discovered that indeed we do have the ability to change our brains. And that is great news for those of us with chronic pain, because for most of us with chronic pain, our brains have basically learned how to do chronic pain. But we have these neural pathways that have basically learned how to reinforce this pain. However, we can retrain our brains. So how do we do it? Imagine you're walking down the path in a forest, and the path that you would like always take would be your habitual path. You can call that your pain path. But you see this path to the left that's less well worn. That is a neural pathway that's less taken. And you can begin to reinforce these new pathways that will go away from the pain path and towards feeling good. And that is what this group is all about. And so, what makes chronic pain better? These are the topics that we're going to cover each week over the next 12 weeks. So, we've got self-compassion. Self-compassion can make us feel better with chronic pain. It can help us feel, because those of us who have chronic pain, we tend to beat ourselves up. Anybody relate to that? Yeah. Yeah. Tend to not be very nice to ourselves. The self-compassion is the balm for that beating up of ourselves. Positive thoughts, right? We talked about how we can get in that negative downward spiral with our thoughts and start to catastrophize and, oh, it's the end of the world. And, and I say it like that because I do it myself. I do all of these things. It's why I had to learn all of this. And I have to continually remind myself to do these things. This is not natural for me. Chronic pain since I was a kid, right? So these are all things I have to remind myself of. Mindfulness. And self-compassion goes very well with mindfulness because when you're mindful, you could become aware of things, but you also can beat yourself up for what you're mindful of. So you're like, I'm aware, I'm doing these things. Oh, I'm going to beat myself up for doing them. So, mindfulness without self-compassion, you can be pretty hard on yourself. So they're good pairing for each other. Social support. We talked about how isolation can make chronic pain worse. Social support can make chronic pain better. So that'll be something we'll discuss. Acceptance. When I first heard of acceptance, I was like, I'm not accepting anything. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean I like it. I'm taking it laying down. I'm resigned to this. It means in this moment, this is what's happening. And I'm not fighting it. When we have that fight energy of fight, flight, freeze, it makes us more on high alert. So that releasing of tension with acceptance of just this is the situation as it is now. What am I going to do about it? That's acceptance. And so we're going to explore with all of these topics. It's an exploration. And that's the difference between me just talking at you, which I'm doing in this moment, but we're going to explore and discuss these topics. Feelings of safety. So when one of the biggest things that can help to turn things around um, with these with these with psychological safety, is a feeling of safety in our primitive nervous system, and then a feeling of balance. So, sometimes people will feel like there's no balance in my life. Well, think about tightrope walkers. Okay. Tightrope walkers are not like, ah, but how can I find a balance in this moment and in this moment and in this moment? Because so often when we have chronic pain, we say, I'm going to push through. I'm going to push through. I just have to push through. What does that do to our nervous system? And how do you think that affects our pain? So we'll discuss that. Allowing ourselves to lean into positive emotions and experience positive emotions, that can affect our pain levels as well. And then experiencing movement. And I'm not saying exercise, because exercise can sometimes have a feeling, but movement that feels good and safe in our bodies. And so all of these things, the result of all of this is that you're going to be able to rewire your brain and your nervous system so that you're going to feel calm, less anxious, more grateful, and experience less suffering.